Hi, I'm Liz Hirsh Naftali, and welcome to the Capital Coffee Connection. And we are sitting here today in Chicago, and I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Zoe Lofgren, and she is the Congresswoman from Northern California. And it was formerly the 16th Congressional District, but now it's the 19th Congressional
Actually, it's the 18th.
Oh, 18th.
They scrambled it around again. So
Okay.
it's I've got part of Silicon Valley and then part of the richest ag area in the country, the salad bowl of the United States.
The Salad Bowl.
Right, Salinas Valley.
So you have the Salad Bowl and the tech capital.
Correct. Now, why the Citizens Commission thought that downtown King City had a lot in common with downtown San Jose, you'd have to ask them. But the people are great.
Well, I think, I was going to ask you, we're going to go to that for a second, which is,
Okay.
what are the people like? Because you have such a diverse group
Right.
of people that are supporting you and that you take care of.
Right. Well, it's very diverse. I mean, I've represented the areas in San Jose forever. I mean, my entire time in Congress and when I was on the Board of Supervisors before that, and when I was on the Community College Board before that. So people know me, and I know that. TAC is the economic engine. It's a diverse community. The new part of the district, basically, Gilroy and Morgan Hill have been in my district for a long time, and although people think of them as ag, they're not really.
Right.
They're small towns in the southern part of Santa Clara County. The tech economy also is their engine. A lot of commuters, a lot of people coming up to bigger firms in the valley. And then south into, I've got Salinas, I've got, Hollister and San Benito County.
What kind of people are they? I mean,
They are
you have
lovely.
Workers, migrant workers, you have farmers, and then you have tech folks. And
Yeah.
that's an interesting combination.
It is an interesting combination. I mean, the new people, new to me, what I've learned is how proud they are of the communities they live in, how committed they are to their neighborhoods. They're hardworking people, very practical. The elected officials, how sometimes you go to a big city and the elected officials, they look in the mirror and they see a potential president of the United States. The mayor of a little bitty town sees the mayor of a little bitty town. And what they want to do is make their town better. And
I love that.
it's lovely. I love these people. They're great. A lot of, farming is the economic engine. There are big ag families that are very prosperous, but most of the people there are not prosperous. The median income is a third or less of what it is in Santa Clara County. There's a lot of growth strains. I mean, there's housing spillover from Silicon Valley. The president of the school board in Soledad works in Redwood City.
Mhm.
I mean, he has to go in twice a week. So it's, our growth is spilled out everywhere, and it's causing strains, economic strains. People are trying to cope.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about, you've been doing this for quite a while, and you have been in the House for 30-ish years.
Almost.
30-ish, we say ish.
Yeah.
But you are the highest ranking Democrat on the House Science, Space, and Technology
Right.
Committee. And, I always think about those things as like futuristic.
That's
and
the
you've been
committee
doing
of
this
the
for a long
future.
time, right? And I know that you have this passion for fusion power.
Right.
Can you tell us what it means to have a passion for fusion power, which also gives a little bit of what fusion power is? Now,
Sure.
remember, this is for everybody to understand, because I'm not a scientific mind.
Right. Well, I'm not a scientist either, but one of the reasons why I ran for Congress, and certainly not the only one, originally was fusion. I remember being interviewed by one of the environmental groups, and they have questionnaires, and I answered the biggest issue we faced environmentally was climate change and fusion, what needed to be. And then it's like, who is this person? What is she talking about?
30 years ago.
That was 94. But we have made tremendous strides since 94. As a matter of fact, we got ignition at the National Ignitions Facility at Lawrence Livermore National Lab 2 years ago, and they've hit it multiple times since then. We've got a whole variety of private sector fusion companies that are being funded by venture capitalists. Actually, there's more private sector money going into those companies than government money. We don't know which of the various approaches will work at this point, but we do know there's still a role for the federal government in terms of materials science research that is beyond the scope of the private sector to do. And we're also have a program that's important, a milestone program, so that private sector companies can hit benchmarks and let the private sector have some confidence about where they are, which is also very important in terms of the public-private partnership. What is it?
Yeah, what
everybody
is it?
knows
What will
about
it do
the
for us?
atomic bomb. You split the atom. Fusion, you're fusing the atom. And it provides basically limitless energy. It's what powers the sun. We know it works because we have a sun. The question is, can we do it on Earth? And the answer is yes, we can. We now have. But can we do it repeatedly and in a commercially viable way? We don't know the answer for sure. The interesting thing is some of these small companies, well, they're not that small at this point, are telling us that they will have fusion power on the grid in the early 2030s. Now,
Let's go soon.
that's pretty
And
soon.
the thing that I like about this is that it's not partisan. It's you're
Right.
Republicans and Democrats, and that's why we talk about
That's
it.
correct.
Because it's really an American process. And yes, you're people from different parties, but you're all working together on this.
Well, Frank Lucas is the chairman of the committee. He's a conservative Republican from Oklahoma. I am not. But we get along very well.
Yeah.
All the bills have been unanimous so far. We work together. Sometimes you have to work together and work at being bipartisan, reaching compromise. But he and I, when I went on the floor and told Frank I was thinking about taking the top Democratic position, and the reason why was fusion. And he said to me, without fusion, mankind is doomed. And he's right.
Wow.
If we can't now kid on this, it's not just as an energy source because we're doing great with renewables and we've got a big future. We're to the point now where we have to remove carbon from the atmosphere. To do that, you need an energy source that's sufficient and non-polluting, and the only opportunity is fusion.
Interesting. Well, I hope one day to speak to Frank, because I'd like
He's
to
a good
speak to
guy,
people that
yeah.
are from the other side,
Sure.
but that are also in this, and we're working together. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that afterwards. Talk a little bit about growing up. You're from San Mateo.
Actually, I grew up in Palo Alto. I was born in San Mateo.
Okay.
And my parents, they got married. They lived in San Francisco. Then they moved to San Bruno. Then they moved to Palo Alto at a time where it was very different than it is today. My dad was a local delivery truck driver. And the street I grew up in South Palo Alto, no one had gone to college. Every single guy had been in World War II. They all bought their houses with the GI loan.
Yeah.
And with the exception of my mother, we had to work outside that whole life. I would say if you added up the income levels of each house, we were at the very lowest end, but we made it. And she worked. She was a school cafeteria cook, and later she was a secretary, and it was a great place to be a kid.
Did you have anything special in school that you were particularly interested in? And did you have a teacher that you still can remember to this day that was inspiring?
But I went to elementary school. I didn't learn to read till I was in 4th grade.
Wow.
I just, the classes were, I don't know why, but I learned to read at home. I remember the day I learned to read. I loved comic books, and my mother was in the kitchen, and I had a Superman comic book, and I asked her to read it to me, and she turned to me and she said, "Read it yourself." I thought, oh my God. So I did.
Yeah.
I figured it out, the words and the pictures, and then I became a readaholic, man. I just loved to read biographies and everything else.
I actually spoke with one of your colleagues who immigrated from Latin America, and he said the way he learned English was through comic books.
Yes.
So
It's my grandson's one of them in particular, in graphic novels. And my daughter said, I should have.
But is a graphic novel a comic book?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of. But it's got more words than comic books.
Yes.
So, yeah, so that was great. I had, my mother in particular was an active Democrat. They weren't in charge of anything. We always went to the Democratic club meetings, and we walked precincts, and some of the teachers I remember Ted Wassam in 6th grade. He organized a student government, and I got to be president of the class. But then he helped kids organize a revolution. And I thought, well, that would be more fun. I want to be part of the revolution. He said, no, you have to be overturned. I was like, how unfair that was.
That's a good memory.
Yeah, he was a great teacher.
And that prepared you for all the years in Congress, right?
That's right.
Having to take not this position you always wanted.
That's correct. And then, John Addig in high school, he taught civics, which is my favorite class of all.
Yeah, it's interesting
Fabulous
about
teacher.
newspapers. Again, one of your colleagues who I was speaking with said anybody that wants to go into public service and to work, newspapers, and we
Yeah.
forget how important it is to read.
Yep. Yep.
So,
The
yeah.
person who changed my life in high school was Mrs. Huntington.
Why did she change your life?
Mrs. Huntington called me in. I mean, I was doing okay in school, but I was not the most diligent student. And I was getting like A's and B's. And she pulled me in and she said, turn those B's into A's and you should go to college. And I said, well, how are we going to do that? We don't have any money. She said, don't worry about that and just do that. So I turned the A's to A pluses and the B's to A's. And the next thing I knew, I got in the mail an announcement that I'd won a California State Scholarship. It panicked me because I hadn't applied for the state scholarship. She had applied for me.
Wow, that's a nice story. And it's like, it's one of those things where you realize how much certain teachers can influence the entire
Absolutely.
trajectory of your life.
Years later, I went and visited her. She was at the veterans home in Napa County. And I went and visited her and we talked about that and how she had changed my life. And it was fun. And then she
You're
said,
the first person to go to college in your family?
yeah.
Okay.
She said, I'll follow what you're doing. Said, and I hear from Nancy Pelosi by email and I send her a few bucks when I can.
That's so sweet. That's a good story. But I understand, speaking of a few bucks, your first job to pay for life was at night shift at Eastman Kodak.
Well, I took in ironing before that when I was under 16. I got admitted to Stanford, with my scholarship, but I didn't have any money for room and board. And so I started working. I figured I'm already admitted, what the heck. So it was 7 p.m. to 3:30 in the morning. Usually we had to do 2 hours overtime. So I started in the last 6 months of my high school, my senior year in high school. I did that. It was always late for my first class. Anyhow, it worked out.
And ironing, that's the one thing.
I hate ironing.
I asked later on, and I'll ask you now, what's your favorite household chore? Because nobody's ever said ironing.
I hate ironing. I did it for 10 cents a shirt. White shirts.
Yeah.
He has people around the corner, lovely. And he was an architect, and so he had to wear shirts, but they weren't that wealthy. So I ironed the shirts for 10 cents a shirt. My favorite, I love to cook, if that's a household chore.
Yeah.
I don't think it really is. Things that are where you really like cleaning the toilet is very satisfying because it's done, right? You can see the difference.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big deal. Okay, speaking of household chores, your husband, he puts up with a lot
He
in
sure
the
does.
sense that you're in DC, you're home, you're doing campaigning, you're in your community. How is it to have and I always look at this as like strong men, men that are really supporting women. That to me, it shouldn't be. It should be just, okay, that's how it's supposed to be, but it's a big deal. And
Yeah,
he's
it
been
is.
doing that for a long time, and I know you have kids and grandkids, and how does he help you, and what does that look like?
Well, for starters, before I was in office, we're both lawyers, and, he had a much more impressive practice than I did, but we had professional respect for each other, and he wasn't threatened by anything I did.
Yeah.
And he's been, when I ran for office and it was for the school board, and he was helpful. One thing he won't do is walk precincts, but he'll cut up the signs and do other things. And, it would be hard to imagine how this could have happened without him.
And talk about your grandkids, because they are the most.
They are the best. Well, I have twin grandsons who just turned 9. They're in 3rd grade. And my daughter has a 2-year-old who is amazing. He's probably the most beautiful baby I've ever seen. I love the twins, but this is a Gerber baby. This is a baby. It's just like unbelievable. So I try and see them. They live nearby. It's a 5-minute drive from our house.
Back home.
And so I tell myself, I have all these meetings, but I don't have to have meetings between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. I could do 6 a.m. I don't care about that because the boys get home from school and the baby's there, and that's when I get to see them. So I try and carve out time to do that.
Yeah, that's it's important.
great.
And also, it's like what nourishes you to go do the work.
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah. What is the best advice you've ever received, the worst advice, and then also what advice do you give, especially I like looking at as younger people?
Right. Well, let's see. The best advice is hard to know. I guess that one of the best advice I got was from my late mentor, Alan Parker. He was on, worked for Congressman Don Edwards, who made me go to law school. And I've never regretted that. The worst advice is be afraid to do something. And best advice I give to young people is try things out. Don't think that you're going to plan out your life and it's going to turn out that way. Life's going to throw you a curveball. So try things out. See what you like. I mean, when I went to law school, even though I'd been working, I worked full time while I went to law school for the fight, and I was working for a congressman the whole time. But I thought it would be Zoe for the defense, that I would love criminal law. So my first year, I volunteered for this criminal lawyer on an appeal, and I despised it. I mean, it was good that someone has to do it, but it didn't have to be me. And I was glad to find that out my very first year of law school, because that was not what it's not
But
what
you
I
never
wanted
would
to
have
do.
done it if you didn't take a chance.
I didn't take a chance. Right.
And it's a good story all these years later. So
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have rapid questions just to get to know you.
Okay.
They can be one word or longer.
Sure.
What is your favorite sound?
Oh, my favorite sound is children laughing.
What is your favorite color?
My favorite color now is blue.
What is your favorite scent?
I'm sorry?
Scent or smell?
Scent? Well, I like camellias. Very nice.
Nice. And who is your biggest cheerleader?
I think my husband's my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. And if you could have like one meal, you're like in a deserted island and they said, okay, one meal, what would it be?
If I could bring my mother back to life and have her bake a apricot pie, that would be it.
What would be your favorite ice cream flavor? I like asking
coffee.
that. Coffee ice cream.
Coffee ice cream's the best.
Okay, so we're not having coffee, but we are having
We're
water.
having water.
Even though
That's
it's a Capital Coffee Connection, but it's a like afternoon,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I appreciate that we're just having water, but are you a big coffee drinker?
I am.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a time zone, so I'm back and forth every
So you
2
can
or
have
3
coffee all the
days, so
time.
I just have coffee constantly, keep myself awake.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where when you don't have to be awake, close your eyes and go to sleep.
Yeah, I got you. Where in the world would you and your husband love to go on a vacation if the two of you haven't been and just wanted to get
Haven't
someplace?
been in a long time. Oh gosh, maybe New Zealand. We went to New Zealand before I was elected
Right.
to Congress. That was wonderful. Or Paris or London we've been to, but not for a really, really long time. Those are beautiful cities.
And have you recently traveled anywhere with him that's been amazing?
We actually went on the Codell. I haven't, because of the January 6th committee, I hadn't gone on Codells in a really long time. And I remembered why I didn't.
It's
We
a lot of,
went to,
it's
to
exhausting.
Portugal, Spain, and Greece. And my I had 3 hours of tourist time. And people go, what did you see? I saw the inside of conference rooms.
So kind of on that note, the last question that I've asked everybody, and I think it's particularly pertinent these days, but I've been doing this for about a year. What brings you joy? What, if you had joy, do you share with others? And what does joy mean to you? What is joy? We'll start with that, and then how it works for you.
Well, I would say the most joyful moments I have are with my grandchildren, and a variety of things, from helping them figure something out, reading to them, if they have an overnight, tucking them in, making them pancakes in the morning. It really makes you just feel wonderful. Professionally, you feel good when you can make a difference, help somebody out. What motivates normal conservatives, moderates, and liberals is all the same. People, you want to help things get better.
Yeah.
We might have different ideas about what that is or how it would be better, but it gives you satisfaction when you can make something better for people.
Yeah. And I think that is really what this is about. Like, the idea of public service is about being there to serve people. And for me, this podcast has really been about how to talk to people about who they are, because I think in the end, people that serve have a lot in common, just like you said. So I'll even end on that one and just say thank you. And thank you for your service, but just thank you for sharing a little bit about who you are. And I'm grateful to the work you're doing for the future of our country.
Thank you. I have high hopes. It couldn't get past the next 10 years with the technology changes that I think are imminent. we will have a bright future. And if we don't, we're in big trouble as a community.
So keep working and
I
keep
will.
working across the aisle. And
I
thank you
will.
so much. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Capitol Coffee Connection with Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren.
Hi, it's Liz. Please join me every Tuesday for coffee to talk about heart and humanity with our elected leaders. Remember to hit subscribe to get an alert when a new episode is live and for exclusive content. Ciao!